The morning Karen stood at the edge of my blueberry field and said, "By Monday, this land will be gravel." She thought she was threatening an old farmer. What she actually did was start a chain reaction that would end with federal investigators, a lawsuit, and her entire HOA collapsing in front of its own residents. She showed up in a floral dress, clutching a thick binder like it was a weapon, with two surveyors in orange vests standing behind her. Her polished little finger pointed across 10 acres of blueberry bushes my grandfather planted 70 years ago. "This section," she said, "is being converted into overflow parking for the Founders' Day Gala. Residents shouldn't have to park on the street." I just stared at her. This wasn't unused land. This was my family's legacy, my retirement, my peace. And this woman wanted to pave it for a neighborhood party. If you've ever dealt with an HOA that thought it ruled the earth, hit subscribe right now, because this story only gets crazier from here. I took a slow breath and kept my voice level. "My farm is not part of your HOA," I said. "Never has been. You and those surveyors are trespassing. You have 60 seconds to leave before I call the sheriff." Karen's smile twitched, but she recovered fast. She flipped open her binder and started reading from what she claimed was a county ordinance allowing underutilized agricultural land to be appropriated for essential community infrastructure. Then she added, almost cheerfully, that they'd pay me county agricultural value for the land. That was when I knew she wasn't just arrogant, she was reckless. Because my land wasn't just farmland. It was a USDA-certified organic blueberry operation. Anyone who's never dealt with federal organic certification has no idea what that means. 5 years of inspections, 5 years of records, soil testing, water reports, approved treatments, zero contamination. One mistake and the certification can be destroyed. This wasn't some hobby patch. It was one of the most tightly regulated parts of my life. Karen turned to leave and tossed one last line over her shoulder. "Bulldozers arrive Monday." She thought the deadline would scare me. But I spent 30 years in the Marine Corps. Deadlines don't scare me. They focus me. Back in my office, I pulled out every document tied to that certification. Then I called the county records office and asked about the ordinance Karen quoted. The clerk went quiet for a second, then said, "Sir, that ordinance was superseded years ago. It hasn't been enforceable in almost 20 years. That's when the entire thing shifted. Karen wasn't standing on law, she was standing on a lie. I copied my deed, my plat maps, my zoning records, and my USDA documents. Then I drafted a cease and desist letter warning her that any disturbance of my certified organic land would trigger immediate legal action and potential federal penalties. I taped that notarized letter right to her front door. She called me the next morning furious, practically screaming into the phone. "You think some paper about your little farm is going to stop this community project?" Little farm, that one got under my skin, but I kept my tone calm. "It's not just paper," I said. "It's federal law. If your contractor touches that soil, your HOA could face fines, remediation costs, and a legal disaster you are nowhere near prepared for." She said I was bluffing. "I'm a retired master gunnery sergeant," I told her. "We don't bluff." Then I hung up. By noon, her law firm sent a letter doubling down. Same fake authority, same smug tone. Same strategy bullies always use. Bury you in paper and hope you fold. That's when I realized I didn't just need documents. I needed witnesses, allies, timing. So I started digging into the neighborhood Karen claimed to represent. Turns out, plenty of people already hated her. A retired teacher had been fined because her wind chimes were too melodic. A young couple was forced to rip out a vegetable garden. Another family got hit over paint color. Then I found Arthur Chen, a corporate lawyer living in that HOA, whose parents had been targeted by Karen too. I sent him the documents. He replied in under 5 minutes. "Mr. Miller, I've been waiting for someone like you. We met at a coffee shop the next day." Arthur was sharp, fast, and angry in exactly the right way. He looked through my paperwork and smiled. "She thinks this is a property dispute," he said. "It's not. If she crosses onto that certified land, it becomes a federal problem. We let her make the first physical move, and then we bury her with evidence. It was risky. I hated the thought of even one scoop of soil being damaged. But he was right. Threats are arguable. Trespass on camera isn't. And before I show you how she walked straight into her own trap, drop a comment and tell me the worst HOA horror story you've ever heard, because Karen was just getting started. Arthur quietly organized residents who'd been pushed around for years. A tech guy agreed to record the HOA meeting. A retired teacher got me signed in as her guest, and I contacted the USDA field agent who handled my inspections. I told him what might happen. His answer was simple. If they disturb certified soil, call me immediately. I'll be there. At the next HOA meeting, Karen put on a full performance. She stood at the front of that beige clubhouse like a queen addressing her kingdom and unveiled a projected image of a gravel parking lot where my blueberry field should have been. Then she told the room I had initially been uncooperative, but had now agreed to cooperate for the good of the community. That lie was the best gift she could have given me. She didn't just announce the project, she publicly claimed authority she didn't have, lied about my consent, and invited the entire neighborhood to witness the groundbreaking Monday at 9 a.m. Coffee, donuts, ceremony, bulldozer. Perfect. Monday morning, I was ready. A sheriff's deputy arrived first for a civil standby. Arthur waited down the road with the legal filings. My witnesses were in place. My phone was recording. Then Karen's little parade rolled up. She stepped out in a bright yellow pantsuit like she was arriving for a ribbon cutting. Behind her came a flatbed carrying a bobcat. Residents stood around with coffee cups, smiling like they were attending some suburban victory party. Karen lifted a megaphone and announced, "Today, Willow Creek breaks ground on a project that represents progress." Then she pointed directly at the corner of my field and told the contractor to scrape off the topsoil. The bobcat crossed the property line. The bucket dropped. Steel bit into the dark organic soil my family had spent decades protecting, carving. An ugly scar through the clover cover crop, that was it. I got the footage. I called Arthur. Execute. Then I called the USDA agent. It's happening. I walked to the fence just as the bobcat was backing up for a second pass. That's enough, I said. Karen stormed toward me, smiling like she'd already won. You can't stop this. The deputy stepped beside me. Actually, ma'am, this is his property. Your contractor is trespassing. For the first time, the color left her face. Then Arthur arrived. He walked right up, opened his briefcase, and handed Karen a thick stack of papers. You and the entire board are hereby served, he said. Trespass, property damage, and emergency injunctive relief. Filed 5 minutes ago. She was still trying to process that when the USDA agent pulled in. No speech, no drama, just official plates, a clipboard, a camera, and the kind of silence that makes guilty people panic. He photographed the damaged soil, took samples, and then turned to Karen. You knowingly directed damage to a federally certified organic agricultural operation, he said. This carries civil penalties, remediation liability, and may open the door to further federal action. The residents standing there with donuts looked like they'd just watched a parade turn into a felony stop. The bobcat operator killed the engine immediately, and just like that, Karen's victory ceremony became a public disaster. If you're still with me, subscribe, because the ending was even worse for Karen than that moment in the field. Once the residents heard the HOA could be on the hook for huge fines and restoration costs, the entire neighborhood turned. Fast. The meeting. Recording got posted online. People heard Karen lie about me. They heard her hide the risks. They heard the arrogance in her voice. Families she'd bullied for years started speaking up all at once. An emergency HOA meeting was called. That clubhouse was packed wall to wall, one by one. Residents stood and told their stories. Fines, threats, harassment, intimidation. By the time I stepped to the podium, the room had already turned against her. I didn't yell. I just told the truth. I told them my grandfather planted the first bushes. I told them what organic certification demanded. I told them Karen didn't just attack land. She attacked history, livelihood, and the law, all because she thought power meant never hearing the word no. Then I said the only thing that mattered. This was never about parking. It was about control. The vote to remove her was nearly unanimous. Karen lost the presidency. The board fell with her. The new HOA leadership settled fast. They paid for soil remediation, legal fees, and damages. The USDA still fined them, but the new board cooperated enough to avoid total financial ruin. Karen, facing personal liability and total humiliation, sold her house at a loss and disappeared from the neighborhood within 2 months. I never saw her again. A few months later, after the soil was restored and the clover came back in green, I put up a hand-painted sign at the end of my driveway. Miller Family Farm, USDA Organic Blueberries. You pick Saturdays. And that first Saturday, families from the same neighborhood Karen claimed to serve showed up with buckets and kids and sun hats. Children ran between the rows, laughing. Parents filled baskets, and for the first time in a long time, that land felt peaceful again. The sweetest part? The field she wanted to turn into a parking lot ended up becoming something far more valuable. A real community.